which sort of reminds us that, and for those of us, and there's some of us in the room who work, for better or worse, in the vineyards of Kabbalah, the ways in which the modern terms we use, like spirituality and mysticism, turn out not to do a very good job of capturing what Kabbalah meant in much of its history. And so I'm really delighted that Mor Altshuler is going to be joining us because there's ways in which questions of AI force us to rethink all kinds of things, including currents and intellectual history that we thought were relegated to the past. And there's much more to say about the meanings of esotericism that AI is revealing to us. So, Dr. Mor Altshuler is a scholar of Messianism, Hasidism, and Kabbalah. She is the author of Asod Hamshichi Shel HaChasidut, offering interesting new interpretation of the origins of Hasidism, as well as a biography of Yosef Karo, speaking of the conjunction of mysticism and law. And she's also a prolific commentator on public affairs. We're delighted you're here. Please.
Thank you, Uda. Okay, so allow me to open this lecture by introducing the initiator of this, of the research on which this lecture is based on. Dr. Amit Kleinman is here, and he's from the International School of Tel Aviv University. He specializes in cyber information security. תודה רבה. We together thank Dr. Marcella Contini-Meyer, Professor Yehuda Libes, Dr. Yitzhak Weiss, and Ms. Liat Bank, who is also here, for their contribution to this interdisciplinary study. Finally, on a personal note, I would like to dedicate this lecture in memory of my teacher and tutor, the late Professor Yosef Dan, the winner of the 1997 Israel Prize, who devoted his life to the study of Kabbalah. Ladies and gentlemen, the first computer in Israel, inaugurated in October 1955 at the Weizmann Institute. מה קרה? עכשיו? Great for you. תודה. The first computer in Israel, inaugurated in October 1955 at the Weizmann Institute, was a huge machine that occupied a large hall. The renowned Kabbalah scholar Gershom Scholem gave the computer its nickname, Golem, dummy, echoing the story about the artificial creature called Golem, built by a man, but then goes out of the man's control and becomes the master of the world. Today, we fear that Scholem has foreseen the future, as you just said, and computers will become a golem, a dummy that will take over its creators. And if so, will such computers mark the end of human science in its literal meaning, science created by human minds? An old book should be opened for a new idea. In other words, a historical perspective is sometimes needed to contend with this scientific anticipation and fear so typical of our supermodern era. So allow me to go back to October 1555, exactly 400 years ago, before the inauguration of the Golem at the Weizmann Institute, and to the slim booklet that was then printed in Venice, which opened the era of human science. It was Tzofnat Pa'aneach, Revealer of Secrets, also translated as Encryption and Decryption, that marked the beginning of modern science in the age of the Renaissance. As scholars nowadays fear that machines will overtake human knowledge, Renaissance scholars believed that the world was ruled by demons, the cosmic forces of evil. Scientists then believed that the only way to defend against demons was to hide crucial information from them. How? By developing methods of encryption that would mislead the demons and enable mankind to connect to the divine powers, the angels, and God. So fears are not new. We always fear something external, something outside of our own world, and we defend ourselves against these fears, our own inner fears. The 16th century was the age of secrecy, as Daniel Goethe called it. The most brilliant and non-conformist minds were in a quest for secret knowledge that would defeat the demons. For this purpose, the occult sciences, the sciences of the hidden, were developed, especially magic and Kabbalah, which was considered then a branch of magic. Both magic and Kabbalah use spells and mysterious prescriptions based on word plays, puns, and exchange of letters. While David Kahn, in his book, The Codebreakers, rejected magic and Kabbalah and defined them as abracadabra compared to cryptography, again, what is scientific and what is outside of science is determined by human beings and their prejudices. Historian Frances Yates took a different approach. She defined the occult sciences as the basis from which modern science, especially science based on mathematics, emerged. And she was right. So let's start with Rabbi Menachem Porto Rapoport, the forgotten inventor of the unbreakable cipher or the visionaire cipher, or in other words, magic, Kabbalah, and science. חנוך, איך אני מעבירה את הפרזנטציות? It's my own computer and I don't know how to control it.
צריך להיות...
Which is horrible. ככה. ככה. לא, ככה. ככה?
אולי תקליקי כאן? כן.
It's my own computer and I don't control it. It's a golem. What is cryptography? Since the invention of writing, people have been trying to hide their secrets from the eyes of strangers. Encryption allows partners, sender and recipient, to hide their correspondence from a third party. Attackers, as they are called, try to break the codes and reveal the secrets. The codes in the ancient world were simple and have not changed for generations. For example, the most common one was the Caesar code. Each letter is replaced by a letter some fixed number of positions down the alphabet. So instead of writing A, I would write B. Instead of B, I would write C. Instead of C, D, and so on. The scientific leap in cryptography occurred during the Renaissance. And it was the transition from monoalphabetic ciphers, each letter has a fixed replacement, to polyalphabetic ciphers. Each letter could be replaced or substituted by any other letter. And two famous figures are connected to this revolution, Johann Trithemius and Blessé de Vigenère. Both were occult scientists, Hebraists, and Christian Kabbalists. They learned Hebrew, they were familiar with Kabbalistic writings, and they connected their ciphers to the secrets of Kabbalah and to the ability of Kabbalists to read between the lines. רגע. Okay. I already reached this frightening figure of... Okay. I don't control this computer and it's mine. Sorry. No, that's okay.
Okay, it's
That's okay.
It's showing you the next one in the curve.
Okay. Trithemius and Vigenère embraced Kabbalah, the wisdom of the secret, or the secret wisdom, Torat HaSod. They adopted the Kabbalist view. God has concealed divine secrets in the Torah, in between the lines. Like Nachmanides said in the 13th century, the Torah was written black fire upon white fire. Between the black letters are white letters, known only to Kabbalists. Or in cryptographic terms, God was the writer and the sender of the letter. The Torah was the cipher text. And scholars of occultism and Kabbalah were the recipients. They deciphered the text of the Torah using Hebrew codes such as Atbash, Gematria, Notricon, and others. And let's start with Trithemius. Here is this frightening figure of Trithemius, indeed a frightening persona. Trithemius was a German Benedictine abbot. He was a polymath of the Renaissance, an occult scientist, magician, and cryptographer. His ciphers were aimed, as he said it, to hide the divine truth from the demons, the forces of evil. Ironically, Trithemius was accused of cooperating with the demons. of necromancy, sorcery, incantation, and black magic. His figure inspired the literary figure of Dr. Faust, by Goethe, a renowned scholar who sold his soul to the devil. And this is the conversion table of Johann Trithemius as published in 1518. Trithemius devised a square table, as you can see, 24 double 24 letters. Each Latin letter has several substitutions. He wrote the letters in both the horizontal rows and the vertical columns. In all rows, the position of the alternating letter is based on a permutation of one step, one letter to the left from the previous letter, like Caesar's code. The shifting is cyclic. And Trithemius, unfortunately, did not clarify how to use his table for encryption. The other famous figure is Blessé de Vigenère, a French diplomat, occultist, Christian Kabbalist, polymath of the Renaissance. The Vigenère cipher was not broken for 300 years. And this is the cipher we are talking about today. David Kahn in the Codebreakers said, Vigenère's cipher is the most famous cipher in the world. It is the creation of modern cryptography. What did Vigenère do? Vigenère copied the conversion table from Trithemius, and he improved it by adding a layer of protection, a repeating encryption key, a short sequence of letters, one sentence, that determines the order of the substitution. The conversion table is public. The encryption key is secret, known only to sender and receiver. The result is a polyalphabetic cipher where A can be B or C or D or E, B can be M or N or F or whatever. And it is secured because only two people know the encryption key, the sender and the receiver, the partners. Now, as you can see, Vigenère indeed copied Trithemius's conversion table. And this is his own version of Trithemius's conversion table. But then Vigenère said something that is quite unusual. Vigenère stated, the source of all polyalphabetic ciphers was Book of Creation or Book of Formation, Sefer Yetzirah, a pre-Kabbalistic treatise attributed to Avraham Avinu and to Rabbi Akiva. And he even quoted from Book of Yetzirah, one paragraph. The 22 Hebrew letters he, meaning God, arranged as on a sphere or a cycle with 231 gates, combinations. For he, God, showed the mode of combination of the letters, each with each, Aleph with all the letters, and all the letters with Aleph, Bet with all the letters, and all the letters with Bet, Gimel with all the letters, all the letters with Gimel, and so on. So this is a polyalphabetic cipher in which Aleph or A can be B or C or D or E or F. In other words, Vigenère read or understood Book of Creation as a method of encryption. Each letter could be substituted by any other letter. Altogether, the table of letters in Book of Creation contained 231 pairs of substitutions. The only thing that is now needed is a key to determine the order of the substitutions. When A will be B, when A will be C, D, and so on. Vigenère even copied, as I said, Book of Creation's table of combination. As you can see, it has, this is from Book of Creation, 22 rows to accommodate the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and 11 columns. 11 double 22. Vigenère also acknowledged prior art. He acknowledged that he admitted to have copied Trithemius's conversion table. He also admitted to have taken the encryption key from an Italian secret secretary by the name of Giovanni Battista Belasso. Today it is a common knowledge that Vigenère was wrongly credited for his cipher. the invention of the cipher, or the credit for the invention of the cipher, goes to Belasso. And here's the conversion table of Belasso, published in 1553, not a square of 24 double 24 letters, Latitemius, but a rectangular table of 22 double 11 letters. Where did Mr. Belasso take his conversion table? Did he take him from this conversion table? In Hebrew. Let me show you the two tables. On your right, you can see the Hebrew table of Rabbi Menachem Rapoport in Tzofnat Paneach. On your left, you can see the Latin table of Belasso in his book. So, who's the authentic inventor of the visionary cipher? The conversion table of Menachem Rapoport and that of Belasso are identical, as you can see. Who was the authentic inventor and who was the plagiarist? Belasso published his slim booklet, The Code of Mr. Giovanni Battista Belasso, in Venice in 1553. Rapoport published his cipher titled Tzofnat Paneach in 1555 or 56. Chronologically, Belasso was the first to publish the cipher. Was he really the inventor? Few words about Rabbi Menachem Rapoport. He was ordained to be a rabbi by Rabbi Shmuel Yehuda Katzenelbogen. He learned medicine under the guidance of Dr. Vittorio Trincavelli in Venice. And he was a Renaissance scholar. He knew medicine, philosophy, Latin, mathematics, geometry, optic, astronomy, and magic. He wrote an unpublished treatise on the reality of demons. He believed in the existence of demons, and he wanted to prove their existence based on Jewish sources, on rabbinical sources. His interest in demonology and magic and demons motivated him to read Johann Trithemius's Polygraphia. However, Rapoport was also a Jew, not only a Jew of the Renaissance, but also a Jew of the ghetto. He lived in the Venetian ghetto and described the life of the Jews in this Venetian ghetto, the first ghetto in Europe. And he witnessed the burning of the Talmud in Venice, October 20, 1553. Rapoport compared the burning of the Talmud to the destruction of the temple and took it upon himself to commemorate the date by fasting like in Tisha B'Av. The burning of the Talmud was accompanied by a prohibition to print in Hebrew. Hebrew printing presses in Venice were shut down, and in Italy in general were shut down for 11 years. So Rapoport published his cipher titled Tzofnat Paneach, or printed it by the Jewish underground printing press, either in Venice in 1555 or in neighboring Mantua in 1556. Notice the name of Rapoport is missing from the title page. You can see the title page, no mentioning of Rapoport's name. It was printed in the underground. So trying to figure out who was the inventor and who was the plagiarist, we took two historical tracks, I would say. One was the two research tracks. One was the historical circumstances, and the other was the professional authenticity. In the historical dimension, we checked the possibility, the dimension of Rapoport's cipher by a mysterious Jewish dignitary who was none other than Rabbi Yaakov Abarbanel, the grandson of the great Don Yitzhak Abarbanel, and the banker and advisor to the Duke of Florence, Cosimo de' Medici. We also checked the possibility that the Duke's secret secretaries used this cipher as early as 1549. And of course, the feasibility of plagiarism in light of the anti-Jewish wave, particularly the shutdown of Hebrew printing in Venice from 1553 on. This is Cosimo, by the way. Then we checked cryptographic authenticity. Rapoport acknowledged prior art. He said he was inspired by a Christian book, Trithemius's Polygraphia. Belasso did not admit to prior art. The operating instructions of the encryption key reveal that Rapoport instructions were aimed to prevent the cracking of the ciphertext, while Belasso's instructions seem or reflect an attempt to perfect a proven security mechanism, that of Rapoport, but in fact they weakened the cipher. And then we checked linguistic authenticity. Belasso's conversion table contains 22 Latin letters. However, the Latin alphabet does not contain 22 letters, but 23, 24, or 26. It varies. While Rapoport's conversion table of 22 rows accommodate the unchangeable 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Even more so, Rapoport's table of 22 double 11 follows the Book of Creation combination table of 22 double 11. And then, what is even more interesting is that Rapoport, in the right corner, the first conversion pair of letters, here in the right corner, can you see it? What are the letters? Here, in Rapoport's conversion table, the first two letters that are to be substituted one by the other is Aleph and Lamed. Can you see it? L. And the first combination of the table of Book of Creation, the combination table of Book of Creation, on your right here is again L. So Rapoport was paying a tribute to Book of Creation. There are a few more nuances, but I will not go into them, only if you ask later. But in conclusion, we conclude that Rapoport invented the cipher in 1948 or 49.
No, not 1950.
Sorry, 1548, 49, of course. He improved Trithemius's cipher with the help of Book of Creation, and that's the whole point here. Belasso was the plagiarist. Is there a conclusion that can help us when we deal today in our very, not postmodern, but super modern world and the problems of the golem and so on? Is there a conclusion that can be drawn from this story? I'm not sure, but anyway, it's a wonderful story. Thank you very much.